Alright, so we're going to get started installing this auxiliary fuse block. So, fuse box is going to get mounted back here in the tail section. We got our relay. Not sure exactly where I'm going to put that. I know it's going to be over here somewhere. And I'll have the wires from the relay running down here to the battery on the left side. Then I'm going to bring the wiring harness from the right side of the bike. I'll figure out how I'm going to route it up through here. Right now I'm just trying to figure out the length of wire that I'm going to use. So basically just run it basically where I want it. Then I'll leave probably an extra foot on there just in case it has to run someplace else. But yeah, so I got this wire run through here, and the connector block will be somewhere up into here. That way when I run all the other accessories, I only have to do a short piece of wire, run it from, if I'm mounting something up front into the connector, I don't have to take everything back off again. So that's what we're going to start with, and get this wire measured up and cut all the positives and the negatives, and we'll make a wiring harness. So I got the wire measured up, and I'm going to cut it about 75 inches. That'll give me plenty of slack when I run this. So that'll be our next part. Get all these cut up, and we'll start putting the harness together. Okay, so I got my piece that I measured on the bike. So now I'm going to go ahead and starting to get all the links of wire ran here, so we'll get everything fairly even. So I'm going to go with 4 power wires up to the front of the bike. That'll leave me 2 for the rear. So you got 1, 2, 3. We need one more ground wire. I'm using 18 gauge on the ground wire, and I'm using 16 gauge on the power wire. Technically, you probably get away with just running 18 gauge through all of it, but yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and do the 16 just because I had some. But yeah, 18 gauge would do fine for the short run and the amperage it's going through it. Okay, alright, so we'll get ready to start doing our harnesses. So I've been using this kit for all my wiring for probably the last 25 years. It's got it through K&L cycle supplies, motorcycle supplies, or whatever it's called. But yeah, I've had it for a long time. It's always done a good job. It uses all the open barrel type crimp. So yeah, and we'll be using one of these blocks So we'll get our males on one side and females on the other. And we'll get them hooked up in there. With open barrel type connectors, when you strip back your wire here, you just barely strip it because you want, hopefully you can see this. But when this sits in there, the front part crimps the wire and the back part actually crimps on the shielding back there to keep that in place. Alright, so let's go ahead and start stripping all these wires. We're just going to strip the one end for now. Yeah, these automatic strippers don't always work so good. These are cheap ones. So we'll use our tried and true ones here. Alright, alright, so we'll go ahead and crimp our ends on. Alright, so we'll get our first one going here. So on these wires, I'm going to use the female spades on here. Sometimes these things are a little pain in the butt. You may end up screwing a couple of them up first few times you use them. I don't know if you can see that or not. So we do our first crimp. And that sets the wire. Then we crimp the back part onto the insulator here. Like that. Now that's on there, it ain't coming off. So then these little things will go in from the back side here. And they got a little locking tab on them, so they'll lock in there. Then the male parts will go onto this, which we won't worry about that until we start hooking up the accessories on the bars and stuff. After thinking about this, I think I decided I'm only going to do 3 powers up to the front of the bike. I don't think I'm going to need any more than that. So I'll run the 3 up there, 3 powers, 3 grounds. Then I can get away with just using one of the terminal blocks too. Otherwise I'm going to have to run a whole extra one for one more wire. So these are just 6-pin connectors here. So yeah, we'll do 3. That'll be plenty. Just 3 to run in the rear of the bike for whatever we need down the road. Alright, so I'm just starting to put these wires in the terminal block here. So we got the first one. So these things got a little locking tab on the back of these. I doubt if you can go see it, but so those will go in. So I'll do all my positives on one side and all the negatives on the other. So those go in, they'll hear a little snap. They're in there and locked. Just like that. So those are 3 powers. Oops, that we got a little bit. You can straighten it out. Like that. And just like that. So then all of our males will get put in through the back side here once we get the other wires on. So now from this point you can either, you know, if you want to just put electrical tape on it, or if you want to put some type of the plastic shielding on there or whatever, this would be the time to do that. So I slipped on a little piece of heat shrink tubing up here, just kind of keep everything tight. Just shrink that down a little bit, just keep it from moving. Most of the time when I'm doing this type of stuff, I like to use the expandable sleeving type stuff on the wires. This is a factory grip heater wire that I made up for the first and generation 650s and 1000s. But, so that's normally how I like my wiring harnesses to look. But this one, you're really not going to see much of it anyway. As long as the main thing is just protect it from chafing so you don't short anything out. So on this, I'll probably end up using this spiral sleeving on there, and I'll just put pieces where I know where it has a possibility of chafing. Then I'll just electrical tape the rest of it. That way I'm not waiting another week for to get product in. We'll get this done this weekend. Show you what I got going so far. So I had some of the spiral wrap type plastic on there. So this will be the part that goes just above the radiator up to the headset part of the bike. And I'll get zip tied on up there. Then I found some split loom shielding that I had, so I'll use that for the other parts where you don't want it to get caught near like the throttle bodies and stuff like that. And yeah, and then we'll electrical tape all that up too. So we've got just a little more to go. I won't do too much to the end of this until we get everything figured out with the fuse block. So I just use some heat shrink tubing, hold some of this stuff on there. seal everything up nice. Like I said, it doesn't have to be super pretty, it just has to be protected and you know, so it can't get caught on anything or be melted by something hot. Alright, so we're we have puppies.
Come here, puppies. Nailed it.
Alright, so we're finishing up the other side of the connector terminal. So this side are just, I'm doing short runs with the bullet connectors, that way we can just, you know, plug in whatever we want, whenever we want. And they can just stay behind there until we need them. So we're doing the female bullet connectors. Actually, we're doing one of each, since I did one of them backwards. That's the way it goes. Just like that. Pull a little shield over it, and we're good to go. Now we'll go ahead and finish it up with all the negative wires on the other side. Alright, so here's our finished harness for this will be sitting up in the front of the headset of the bike. So this will get plugged in, and then whatever accessories we want to plug in, everything will be right there. We can wire it in, and yeah, so that's that. So now we'll go out to the bike and we'll route the wiring harness and kind of figure all that out and make sure we're not binding up on the throttle bodies and nothing against the engine. This is going to melt wires and all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and get that started. Alright, so this is got the wiring harness routed down. You can see the yellow piece down there. Yeah, we'll find some stuff to zip tie it to down there and make sure it isn't in contact with anything hot or anything moving. So, yeah, I'll figure out where to run this. If I'll run it with the other wires or run it through the bracket there with the coolant reservoir, run it through there, then back to the left side, or right side, I'm sorry. But yeah, I gotta figure out whether I gotta take all this stuff off to be able to take these plastic pieces off here to run the wires. If I can do it without doing it, I will, but if not, I'll take all of it apart. Alright, so we got our drill hold here. And we will be using a little rubber grommet. We'll put in there, we'll run the wiring harness into there. So we got our wiring harness coming up here. So this is our part that'll get zip tied up into the headset, and then we'll run our accessories to that. So this is our wiring harness coming out of here. We'll run it up with the other wires. Yeah, we'll just zip tie them to the other wires. Should be up and out of the way. But yeah, so that'll just plug into that. Alright, so here's the final routing for the wiring harness here. So got that, it's coming down, it's going on just above the radiator. Down through there, you can see the yellow. It's going down, make sure it's in focus. So we got there, going through this bracket, and then it's going down from there below here. You can see it popping up right here. And it's going down under this bracket. I did have to loosen that screw and that screw just to get it away just a little bit to get this. This is 3/8 inch wire loom there. So this doesn't interfere with the seat. So I just got to run across here and there. I wanted to do it under it, but there's another big wiring harness already right there, so it wasn't going to fit. So, and that's it. All right, so we ended up taking the rear rack off, took the rear plastic off, where we can get to our wires back there, and we'll splice into that for the trigger wire for the relay. So yeah, basically to take the back plastic part off, take the rear rack off, and which is that rear rack if you don't have the GB thing. And there's two kind of hidden, let's see if it's in focus. There's two plastic clips that are underneath that you have to take out that go into there. So there's one on each side of those. I loosened up the luggage rack things. I just took them off to get them out of the way, but I don't believe it's necessary. The only bolt that really holds on the rear plastic is back here. So it'll be the back left upper bolt for the luggage, which is that hole there. I know it's not in focus. So basically that hole there. And then you got some clips in there that clip onto there, and it slides straight back. The tail light stays on. You can let's see what else. Yeah, I think that's about it. I did a little extra because I never had it off before, but yeah, from what I can see, it's just this upper bolt and the rear rack and the two plastic clips underneath the mud guard under there, and it should pop off. So let me see if we can. Well, with this off, I looked and I'm pretty sure I can route the electrical around that thing instead of having it running over the top of it. I'm kind of happy about that. It'll look a lot cleaner. So let's see what else we can do. Now we're gonna look for a switched power wire. It should be this brown one back here. This is the one that plugs into the tail light in the back here. So, got our test light. So it's the brown wire, turn the key, and it's switched. Alright, so we'll probably have to cut this sheeting back just a little bit. We'll clip the wire, and we'll put a couple more ends on there. Have another lead that goes out to the relay to switch it. Now that I've taken this off and I realize that really I didn't have to take all this plastic off. If you can get your hand in there all the way to the back to the light, And you can see the little tab right here. You push that in and pull it out. You could probably get it out far enough where you didn't have to take all the plastic off, but that's okay. I want to know how it came off anyways, clean everything up. But yeah, anyways, it might save you a little time. Alright, so I'm finishing up making our little jumper wire for this switched wire. There's not much wire to work with on this, so you just gotta take your time and make it happen. Alright, so we cut our brown wire. We got 2 female barrel connectors in there. So now this will get stuck there. This one will get stuck in here. So that's not the prettiest, but that's all you're going to be able to do. So I got that much wire to work with, so without making a whole nother connector, this is about the best I'm going to be able to do right now. And so this will be our trigger wire going to our relay. So we're done with that. We can button this back end up. That's in there. There's the lights going to the turn signals and the what do you call it, license plate light. So we can go ahead and pull our wiring harness back out again. And see what I got this. So there's enough room to slip it in there. I took my tape off. Usually I'll tape the ends of these so they just slide in. Little thing popped out of there. That's all right. I'll get it back in. Yeah, that should be good. Let's see if you guys can see that. So you can see it coming in through here. It'll stay right between these 2 screws here, not sticking out, so that'll be fine. That'll pop back up in there. Yeah, it'll be nice. All right, next. All right, before we go too much further, let's double check power's working. All right, looks good. So we got the LED hand guards just sitting on there right now. It's not totally in. You can see our wires coming down from that. So we'll have to run all that. Yeah, but tell you these connectors back here that go to the turn signals, when you take these off, you got this little thing here. When you unconnect the connector, you have to actually lift up on this, then pull it out. That's on these 3 connectors. The rest of them, you actually have to push down, take them out. Alright, so let's go ahead and get this rear part back on. So we got 3 wires back here. Got a black connector, a white connector, and a gray connector, so no way to mess that up. Let's see. There's much room. Connect these. I'll use the other side. Okay. We're snapped in there. There's a little keeper for the wires back there. Okay, yeah, a little tab back there. It's on the wrong side of the inner fender. Should pop on now. Get this stuff lined up. Snapped. Okay. So that part's on. Go ahead and put a little plastic push pins in. Alright, so next we can put a little luggage hanger on there. Alright, so this is the wiring harness for the relay. So I took the main wire, the hot wire that's going to the battery out, made it longer. I don't want to have a bunch of splices in it. Got a little bit thicker gauge wire. I'm using 14 gauge. That'll be plenty for what we're doing. So on these, there's a little tab on them like the other ones. So that'll go in there and snap in. Just like that. So we'll take this blue one out. The blue one goes to the fuse block. So we'll make that one 14 gauge. So to get these out, I just use like a little jeweler's screwdriver, stick it in the front here. You're basically pushing that little tab up. Sometimes you gotta work it a little bit. and it'll slide right out. And luckily I have a bunch of these little ends to crimp onto the new wire, so that makes it easy. Okay, we got the fuse block wired up. So we got switch wires hooked up. We got all of our grounds. See if you can see that. So we got all of our ground bus here. So we got our 3 positives. They're running from to the front there. This is our power from the relay, which the relay I put right here. And normally you'd have a fuse in line from the battery to the relay, but this relay has a 30 amp fuse built into it, so it makes it a little easier. So yeah, eventually I'll get this thing mounted in here solid, but I'm not worried about that right now. So first thing to do is check and see if we have switched power. Got that there. Okay, our switch power is there. Alright. Now we need to see if the switch power is going to the front of the bike. Alright, let's see if we get this. Only got the one fuse in there, so we'll see if it is the right one. So our switch is on. Okay, it is switched. So then our switch on our handlebar, you see the light? Alright, so the switch is working, everything's good. Alright, now time to start wiring up these LED handguards. Alright, so here's some of the final wiring for the auxiliary fuse block. After a bunch of messing around with these wires, there's really not a whole lot of room up around the headset, so I end up zip tying it up in here, and we got a kind of just not a good place to, you know, we just got a bunch of wires up there. It's not the prettiest. But it'll work. There's nothing hitting. Alright, so here's our lights. Oh yeah, and one thing I forgot to tell is this little thing, I loosened it up and I flipped it over the other way because it was hitting on this rubber piece you have to take out of there for the hose, the brake hose, to give it enough slack. But once he did that, that little rubber thing rubs on that metal thing and it makes a terrible squeaking noise. So I just loosened it and flipped it around. So now it's not touching anything. Alright, here's a little quick overview of the wiring. Alright, so this is where the wiring at the front of the bike ended up to be out of the way of the steering so it wouldn't hit on anything. There's really not much room up in there, but yeah, from there we routed it down, zip tied it onto the brake junction block there, and down above the radiator, down underneath there, through there, back along this plastic part, and into the tail section. into the fuse block. So still got to clean up some of those wires back there, but yeah, I can do that later. This is the wiring, the positive lead going from the battery. That's routed back through here and around. There's a little gap in between here. The wires will run right through. Alright, so the wiring for the LED headlights, you can kind of see how I got it ran down there. Got it going down. Zip tied onto there. And into the front, actually, well, the grounds are going into the front harness, but the other wire, the positive wires, going up to the switch. So it's a 2-wire switch. So basically on that, you're going to have two power wires. A power wire going in from the harness into the switch, then out from the switch into the positive wire of the LED handguards. So on these LED handguards, it doesn't matter which one you do it into, it can go either way. So you can, whichever wire you choose to be ground will be ground, and whatever wire you choose to be positive will be positive. Alright, so the left side, I got the wiring running down the brake line and then down from there. And these LED handguards, I got them off from eBay. I don't know if they're copies of Kirby's Vision handguards. It's kind of what they look like, but yeah, they seem to work pretty good. Alright, so we're going to recap on all the stuff we did with the electrical. We got a little list here, make sure I don't get it out of order. Alright, so first we decided where we're going to run the wires, where we're going to put the fuse block, and then we measured the length of wire we need to make the wiring harness, which on this I made it like 75 inches long, ran the 6 wires, and then after we made the wiring harness, we routed the wiring harness, and then we drilled the hole in the back to run the wiring harness in to where the fuse block is. Okay. Alright, so then I spliced into the taillight brown wire to get the switch power to the relay, which is pin 86 on the relay. Then I ran the ground from the battery to the fuse block, ran the ground wire from the relay to the fuse block, and that was pin 85 on the relay, is the ground. And then I ran the power from the relay, pin 87, to the fuse block. And then I ran the power from the battery to the relay, which is pin number 30. Alright, so after that, I routed the wires, cut the wires going to the fuse block. I put all the ring terminals on the wires, hooked those into the fuse block, and then ran the wires for the LED handguards, and then I zip tied all the wires, get them out of the way, make sure that they're not binding on anything. So everything looks pretty good. Is it as clean as I want it to be? No, but we can address it. The main thing is you don't have any wires binding when you turn the bars. After that, just adjusted the lights, tightened up all the bolts back up. And now it's time to put it all back together. So anyways, if I left anything out, comment below. I'm trying to put out some good content for you guys. It's hard to work and try to remember all the steps, move the cameras, move the lighting. So, I appreciate it if you guys would like and subscribe to the channel. It'll help me out. But yeah, I enjoy helping you guys out. So